inflation. The constantly increasing prices in consequence of the falling value of money. That's inflation today. And through this process of inflation, people are ripped off of their wealth. 3 times in the Quran, Allah has commanded. He says, وَأَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. One way, do not deprive people, do not diminish the value of people's property and wealth and so on. أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. One way in which you can diminish the value of people's property and the value of the thing, their labor and so on, is through the corruption of money. When we use that money which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordained and which is most certainly in the Sunnah, we use money which had intrinsic value, and money then successfully functioned not only as a medium of exchange for buying and selling, not only as a measure of value, what price you should pay for this and for that, but most importantly as a store of value, so that if you went to sleep with some money in your pocket, and with that money you could buy a plate of biryani, and you slept for 300 years, when you woke up after that sleep, you could still take that money and go and buy the plate of biryani, because the money has functioned successfully as a store of value in Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran. Good. But if after 300 years you can no longer buy even a grain of rice with that money, then you've been ripped off with the money. This is what the Quran is talking about when it says, وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. You work for a whole month and you get a salary. And with that salary you could buy a camel. And then something happens to the money, and suddenly you can no longer buy a camel with your money, you can only buy a donkey. You're feeling like a donkey now. You've been ripped off. And then tomorrow you could no longer buy a donkey, you can only buy a chicken. Huh? This is what the Quran is talking about, inflation. I went in Iran in February of this year. I traveled to Iran to attend a conference on Jerusalem. And when the conference was over, I stayed back for a whole week. I had heard about an Ayatollah in Iran who had denounced the monetary system. And there are very few of the Ayatollahs in Iran who even know anything about money. I've met them. I've met the most learned among them. So when I heard about this man, I said, I want to meet him. So they arranged for me to go to the city of Qom to meet with Ayatollah Hairi Shirazi. When I reached to his home, there was a very simple, humble home with 3 stairs, and I had to climb up these stairs with my bad knee, so it was painful. When I reached to the top, there was a nice carpet. They all sit on the carpet, no chairs, no tables and so on. And some of his senior students were there waiting. They wanted to be present for this encounter, this exchange of views. So I sat down waiting for just a little while before the Ayatollah came. And he came and he sat down next to me on the floor. And he held my hands in his hands and he would not release my hands. No. He kept on holding my hands. And he's 81 years of age and I am 75. So I found this to be something very kind and gentle of the Ayatollah, to be kept on holding my hands. Not accustomed to this. So he put me at ease. And then he said, okay, I'm going to show you through a process of a demonstration what I mean by this monetary system being bogus and fraudulent and haram. So he orders his students to bring a jar or jug of lemonade and another jug of pure water and a few glasses of empty glasses. Then he poured some of the lemonade for me, a little bit in a glass so I could taste very nice, tasty lemonade. Then guess what he did? He took the first glass and he poured 3/4 of lemonade and he added 1/4 of water. Then he took this glass and he poured it into another glass, 3/4, and another 1/4 of water. So he's diluting and diluting and diluting the lemonade. When he reached the little glass, he said, now taste. I could hardly taste any lemonade. He said, that's what they've done with money. The Ayatollah, in a simple demonstration of the dilution of lemonade, was able to teach the subject more brilliantly than I had with my lectures for 20 years. This is the wisdom. This was the wisdom of Ayatollah Hairi Shirazi. And 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, I got the news that he died in Shirazi. I felt very, very sad to learn of the death of this wonderful, humble gentleman who was such an eminent, learned Ayatollah, and who will teach you a lesson the way prophets would teach. Yeah? MashaAllah. This is what paper money has done. And it is in manifest conflict with the Quran. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. And after 1971, there was no pretense of any lemonade anymore. After 1971. Because up to 1971 there was still a little bit of lemonade, which was the provisions in the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund that the US dollar was redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce to central banks. So you're still a little bit of lemonade. But when France challenged them, they backed out. And they reneged on their obligation under international law. And after that, no lemonade, no even pretense of a lemonade. And 1971 came and go, and no alim, no scholar of Islam, none stood up and said this is bogus and fraudulent and haram. There's no lemonade now, it's only water. That's no institution of learning in the world. It made no difference whether you are Sunni or Shia. It made no difference whether you're Sufi or Salafi. It made no difference whether you're Deobandi or Brelvi. All of them were silent. None stood up and said. And that is 1971. In quite a while, since 1971. And then in 1974 came the petrodollar, where now it's oil being used. And King Faisal was taken for a ride, yes. He didn't know the subject, yeah. But I wanted to make this comment to you, to try to take you back to the Quran. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. That you are using money in such a way that people are being ripped off, and this is haram in the Quran.
Thank you, Sheikh. Brother Shoki, can I ask you a question?
There is hadith which say that تبايعتم بالعينة رضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد في سبيل الله يسلط الله عليكم ذلا لن يرفعه حتى تعودوا إلى دينكم. The scholars, they say إذا تبايعتم بالعينة, if you buy and you sell by the عينة, the word عينة, even the Arabs, they need someone to explain. The majority of the
I'm not familiar with hadith.
with the hadith.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. And I'm not going to comment.
Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned three things, which if we do it, we will be humiliated in the end time. He said, إِذَا تَبَايَعْتُمْ بِالْعِينَةِ, if you buy and sell by the Aina, and the majority of the scholars, they explain, the Aina is kind of riba, but no one can explain it clearly which kind of riba. And today we buy and we sell with this currency.
What is the meaning of the word ina?
Aina, this is what I want to ask, because the word Aina is even the scholars which they
Are
study.
you familiar, Maulana?
تبايعتم بالعينة ورضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد في سبيل الله يسلط الله عليكم ظلا لن يرفعه حتى تعودوا إلى دينكم. This is the hadith. One of the three things is if you buy and sell by the Aina, and all the scholars they say buy and sell with riba, and today we buy and sell with currency. My question is, if this currency shown clear that this is the riba which
It is, most certainly without a shadow of a doubt. The paper money that we are using is riba in the sense that it is being used for riba.
I'm asking this hadith because it looks like they are hiding it.
Yeah, I have never...
He's showing clear that he
I
said
don't know this
if you
hadith.
do this, if you buy and sell by the riba, Allah will humiliate us till we come back to
You
our
have
religion.
my email address? You don't have my email address.
No, but I can have it.
Right, so Ashraf will give you my email or
I will send
Hosein.
you hadith.
Can you send me the hadith with the Arabic text?
I think
Hadith, which book?
we'll find it in Bukhari.
Bukhari.
Yeah,
You sure?
yeah.
Okay, we'll just move on to the next question, Sheikh. This question will be by Brother Hosein, I'm sorry. Asir.
I wanted to ask something about this. Sheikh, back in the days, the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to pray Dua Rakat Namaz Nafil, and the cloud used to come and it's to rain on their place. Now we need 1000 rakat, but nothing happened. His barakah is gone because of not using gold and silver.
We have betrayed the Quran in many more things. Yes, many more things, not just in money. When last have you seen someone performing wudu? Huh? Have you ever seen the way wudu is performed today? Huh? When people no longer use a container, they now use a tap. I would think that most people in London today, when they go to the masjid for salat, nearly everybody uses a tap, and you hardly ever find anyone using a container. Is that correct?
No one.
Yeah. No one is using a container anymore. So do you see them open the tap, hold their hand and close it up?
No.
Have you ever seen that?
Full lost.
Huh?
Full lost.
But that is the sunnah. You should open the tap, fold your hand and close the tap. Use this amount of water to make wudu. That is the sunnah. If you did not use the tap, you dip with your hand and get that amount of water.
Chullu bhar pani is called in Urdu.
This is the sunnah. Okay? And you cannot find anyone non-performing the sunnah today. Nobody. It's time for you to open your eyes. Go check out what is the sunnah of wudu. Okay? How is wudu performed? And if I no longer have a container and I have to use a tap, how should I conform with the sunnah if I'm using a tap? Allah sent down mankind on earth. He says to the angels, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. human history, at the very top, the most important subject in human history is the state and government and rule and system of law. That is up at the top. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Good. And if you had any doubt in your mind as what did Allah mean when He used the word Khalifa, along comes the ayah, Ya Dawood, Inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard. Now I'm pointing you as Khalifa, what is your function? Fahkum bayn al-nasi bil-haq. Establish hukuma, governance, law, rule on the basis of truth. Around the whole world today, this has been repudiated. Yes, the whole world of Islam repudiated. And around the whole world of today, thanks partly to Muhammad Iqbal, we now have the Republican state. Yeah. And he says to his eternal, to his eternal sorrow, really, to use a mild word, he said that the Republican state is an adequate substitute for the Khilafah. And if you don't believe me, go and look in his book. You'll find it there, The Reconstruction of Religious Thought Islam. So Allah is no longer Al-Hakam. No, the supreme authority. The state is now the supreme authority. Allah is no longer Al-Malik, the sovereign. The state is now the sovereign. Allah is no longer Al-Akbar. The supreme, the Security Council of the United Nations organization is Al-Akbar, because it has the supreme authority in the world. Yeah. When the Security Council says stand up, Pakistan has to stand up. Yeah. And if the Security Council says sit down, Pakistan has to sit down. Yeah. That is the implication of being a member of the United Nations organization. So we have betrayed Allah and His Messenger, and yet we take the drum and we beat Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. I have to control my anger and not use violent language. May Allah help me to cool down my anger, okay? We have betrayed Allah and His Messenger. All over, the betrayal is monstrous. But the good news is while the elders are stuck in concrete, we can see the youngsters now waking up and willing to learn. And this is why I'm so happy to be in Britain. Because I'm seeing here in Britain what I'm not seeing elsewhere. I'm seeing young people coming out of your Darul Ulooms in Britain, and bright young people, not like in Pakistan, you know. When he cannot go abroad to study, then he go to a Pakistani university. And when he cannot get into a Pakistani university or college, he can't go anywhere, then he go to a Darul Uloom. At least you get Kada and Pina in the Darul Uloom, right? And you could graduate and get a little job as an imam or muezzin. So the scum, the least intelligent, not the scum, the ones who are least intelligent, they have the least profile, they're the ones who come to study in the Darul Uloom. And the brightest of all, they go out to Oxford. But mashallah, I have found here in Britain that you have graduates from the Darul Uloom who are bright, who have open minds, and who are willing to learn. Yes. So I have some hope now. When Allah calls me away, I'll have some hope in my heart that we can look forward to tomorrow when it will be better than today. Before I end, there's a hadith. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah for this hadith. I wish I could translate it in Urdu. You must give me the Urdu for it so I can quote it in Urdu for Pakistan. He said, my ummah is like the rain. I don't know which shower is better, the first or the last. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah for this hadith. So I'm happy to see the young ones here in Britain showing this kind of energy, intellectual energy, and this capacity, this open mind to study and to learn. They're not taking stones and throwing at me now, not here in Britain. Rather, they're flocking to me, they're hungry to study, and may Allah keep me alive just to learn, to teach them, yes.
Thank you, Sheikh, for that question. Next question is, got it written here on a paper. The role of Amir Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Your thoughts on him?
I believe it is no longer a matter of any doubt in the minds and the hearts of the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that Amir Muawiyah departed from the conduct of his predecessors in a very important way and to the everlasting detriment of the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. I think I am on solid foundation when I say that he wanted his son to succeed him. If I am wrong, I would like to get the evidence to support the view that I am wrong. And I think that I am on solid grounds when I say that the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, Sayyidina Imam Hosein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, had the wisdom, the knowledge, the insight to be able to see and to recognize that this was a dangerous departure from the way of those who had preceded him. And this would cause great damage to succeeding generations. And that he then resisted this succession for this realm. If I'm wrong, I am subject to be corrected, yes. And I would like to put it into record that I hold the view that Sayyidina Imam Hosein was correct. Yes, he was correct. If I have to pay a price for that, I'm prepared to pay the price. Good. If the following that I have just explained in very simple language and very plain language is correct, then we were correct when we excluded Muawiyah, Amir Muawiyah from the Khulafa al-Rashidun. I don't think I need to speak more.
Thank you, Sheikh, for the answer. Next question is to Brother Abdullah. Is it Abdul? Abdul, do you want to ask a question?
Some time ago, Sheikh, you spoke about the hadith of the surrounding of Ya'juj, Ma'juj with the Isa alayhi salam and so on. And there's part of this, I believe it's part of this speech in which you also said that they conquer the earth, and then they say, we have conquered everybody on earth, we are now going to conquer those who are in the heavens, and they fire the arrows into the air. And you said that at that point you were unsure what that part meant. Is there any, since then, have you...
Yes, someone asked that question before you came.
Okay.
And I said, I don't have the knowledge of military science All I could say is this appears to me to what the Americans describe as Star Wars, okay? Shooting your rockets up into the sky and so on to try to damage revolving platform, military platforms circling the earth. But someone who has a knowledge of military science, up-to-date military science, would better be in a position to comment on this hadith here. I know the limits of my own thought here.
Okay, brother, what's your name again, sorry?
Question.
Okay, go.
Sheikh, what it does is when they fire the nukes in the sky, the Earth, it sends only gamma rays. It does not destroy the Earth's atmosphere. That sends gamma rays down to the Earth. And everything which works on electronics is fried, so electricity does not work on the Earth. This is what happens when you nuke the space.
Yes, we had a seminar in Geneva in August of 2015 when Piero and Giorgio joined with me on the subject of preparing for nuclear war. And he made this point, that you'll achieve more by exploding a nuclear device in the atmosphere than on the earth. Yes, he explained this very carefully, that the exploding a nuclear device in the atmosphere will cause every single thing that is electronic to stop working for miles and miles and miles all around us. Okay.
Sheikh, I've got a written question here, just bear with me. What is your opinion on recently the United Nations vote on Jerusalem? More than 100 countries voting against Israel, and America and only 9 voting in favor. Contrary to that, also India.
The General Assembly vote you're talking about, not the Security Council.
Yes, Scott, you were united. You were.
The Security Council was 14-0. 14-0. 14-4 and the United States are vetoing. The General Assembly was 129 in favor and 9 against, with something like 30-something abstaining. I've not had the time to do the kind of research work that a student of international relations would have to do. I'd have to go and examine each one of those countries which abstained. Each one of those countries which voted and are in a precarious economic condition and are dependent on US aid, and yet they voted in favor of the resolution. For that you need some time, and I have not been able to find the time to do that as yet. So I really cannot offer a critical comment, although it's a very interesting subject for researchers.
Okay, thank you for that, Sheikh.
Before we conclude, however, that I have to give credit to Erdogan of Turkey. Although I am uncomfortable with him in many things, where credit is due, you must give credit. It was very sensible on his part, very intelligent, to call for a summit conference of the Islamic countries, Islamic Summit Conference in Istanbul, and to do that before going to the General Assembly. Once he had that conference in Istanbul, and you had a resolution coming out of that conference to support all the previous conferences. They have a long history of Islamic Summit conferences, and they've always put resolutions on this subject. The first Islamic Summit conference occurred when?
1974.
February 1974 is the second in Lahore.
First one in Marrakesh, yes.
The first one was not in Marrakesh, it was where? In Rabat.
In Rabat, yeah.
Yeah, Rabat. When?
72, I believe. 71.
September 1969.
Oh.
Pedais nahi hota. In August of 1969, a Zionist Jew went into Masjid al-Aqsa and lit a fire and which burned down the mimbar which had been built and donated to the masjid by Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi. Okay. The whole mimbar was destroyed by fire. Only the mimbar. The destruction of just the mimbar of Masjid al-Aqsa was enough to bring the whole world of Islam together. And King Faisal called for a summit conference, and it took place in Rabat in Morocco. The Zionist world did all that they could to try to prevent the conference from taking place, and then to try to water it down. And they used the Shah of Iran to do that, to water it down, to make sure that you don't have any strong resolution coming out of the conference. But the conference did take place in '69. And then the Zionists did all they can to ensure it never repeated. Never repeated. So when the attack on Masjid al-Aqsa took place in '69, it produced the Summit Conference. And then came the war of 1973 and the oil boycott. And the price of oil rising from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel. And the Arabs now having a 400% increase in their wealth. And then it was the political genius of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto who recognized the importance of this moment. And he acted swiftly. If he did not act so swiftly, he would not have succeeded. And then you had the Lahore Islamic Summit Conference with a focus on economic development in the world of Islam. But they didn't forget Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem. So, and every subsequent summit conference, I think they must have had about 15 or 12 already, every subsequent Islamic summit conference has always had a resolution on Jerusalem. So when Erdogan called for this summit conference, and he did it was right timing, the timing was excellent. They had no way to stop it, none, because his timing was perfect. The schoolboy who is now this crown prince in Saudi Arabia probably couldn't digest his dinner because there was nothing he could do to stop it. Saudi Arabia chose not to send any top-level person to conference because Saudi Arabia recognized that they were outmaneuvered by Turkey. Yeah. Turkey wants leadership of the world of Islam. Saudi Arabia wants leadership of the world of Islam, the two of them competing. And Erdogan was able to outmaneuver Saudi Arabia. So once he had that successful summit conference in Istanbul,